Trees, forests, green. It's something we all take for granted. But on average, 240 acres of nature are destroyed every hour as a rapidly increasing population demands more homes, new offices, larger factories, wider roads. You get the picture. Although the explosive growth will probably generate prosperity as never before, it comes at a price. It has the potential to create the worst environmental crisis in human history. This is Flashpoint Earth. Hello, I'm Ken Magos. According to some estimates, an additional 3 billion people will call our planet home in only the next 50 years. That's an increase of 40% from today. That's a lot of people to accommodate, and a lot of problems in the making. How much do you know about the challenges facing the environment? The experts at Seton Hall University tell us there are 10 top issues that everyone should know about, but few people do. How aware are you? Climate change. Of all the issues facing the environment, climate change is the one that people seem to talk about the most.
I do believe that global warming will have a major, or is having a major impact on what's going to happen to mankind in the future.
The single biggest challenge, without a doubt, facing the environment is global climate change.
I'd say global warming.
Climate change, global warming.
Climate change is something that's already with us. We've already seen the devastating effects that it's had in other countries as well as right here.
It's no surprise that climate change has got people talking. The impact is potentially dramatic. According to the EPA, because of global warming, average sea levels worldwide are projected to rise up to 2 feet by the end of this century. This rise would eliminate approximately 10,000 square miles of land in the United States alone. To make matters worse, you and I are to blame, though half of us don't believe that.
Less than 50% of Americans are supporting the idea that humans are causing these climate changes.
And to students of the environment at Seton Hall University, that just doesn't add up, especially when you consider the following.
Between 80 to 90% is caused by humans releasing carbon emissions. Less than 10% of global warming is caused from the sun's heat and energy.
I think statistics really open people's eyes. When you hear the numbers, it's concrete evidence that things are happening.
According to Seton Hall professor Dr. Judith Stark, we can't wait to take action.
10 to 15 years, that's about the window that we have in order to really begin to reduce greenhouse gases in the environment.
It's a serious situation, the first of 10 we're talking about on this show. The second, clean water. Are you ready for some shocking statistics? According to waterproject.org, nearly 1 billion people don't have safe water to drink, and 1 in 5 children who die before age 5 worldwide die of a water-related illness.
A great deal needs to be done.
A great deal. That's because the issues involving water quality are wide-ranging. When farming goes wrong, pesticides and insecticides turn water into poison. And when landfills go wrong, waste and garbage get into the water supply. But no matter how the water gets contaminated, the health risks are enormous. According to the World Health Organization, about 2 million people die every year due to diseases transmitted through bad water. On to our next challenge, clean air.
It's a public health issue, and the public health issue is that the degrading of the atmosphere has major impact on human beings, and especially with regard to heart disease and lung disease in particular.
When you think of this issue, do you think of China? Many people do. Beijing is a notorious culprit. But Beijing isn't the only culprit. Quality air is a big challenge right here in the U.S.
New Jersey continues to be an area that's called a non-attainment area by the federal government, which means typically we do not attain the standards for good quality air on most days in the state of New Jersey.
We'll have more on clean air in a minute when we talk about pollution. But right now, we go from the lungs to the stomach and the issue of food quality.
People are now worried about, like produce and stuff, not getting enough vitamins in their food. So just knowing where your food comes from and building that type of relationship, it gives you a sense of comfort.
You should always know where your food comes from. More than 200 known diseases are transmitted through food. The most common, food poisoning, is really a catchphrase for a number of ills. Victims often vomit or feel like they have the flu. Other diseases are more threatening. Listeria can trigger a miscarriage in pregnant women. And mad cow is fatal.
Wow, I didn't know that.
As the world gets smaller, your risk for getting sick gets bigger. According to the American Society for Microbiology, the trend toward importing food from developing countries opens up Western nations to these risks. And here's a scary statistic. The research team says the FDA only inspects 1% of over 9 million batches of imports every year, a fact that few people realize.
I guess it shouldn't be surprising that people don't understand these. These are difficult topics.
Fortunately, the experts at Seton Hall have a plan. That's coming up. But first, there are more issues to explore. It's a dubious milestone, but there's now an environmental woe that's more likely to claim your life than a car crash. We have the details next. Welcome back to Flashpoint Earth. I'm Ken Malgos. We're looking at the 10 top issues facing the environment as compiled by Seton Hall University. Up next, pollution. When you think of pollution, you probably think of garbage floating in water or maybe even the BP Gulf spill. But truth to tell, the most dangerous type of pollution is pollution you can't even see. A study from the World Health Organization says 3 million people now die each year from the effects of air pollution. That's 3 times the 1 million who die in auto accidents. Fine particles in the air are the culprits. They're generated by traffic and power plants and become lodged in the heart and lungs. Although the health danger to one individual at any single time is relatively small, it's still a lot bigger than at any other time in human history. And the odds of air pollution claiming your life increase exponentially if you suffer from other health problems. The public health burden derived from this ubiquitous risk is enormous, say the researchers. Another issue which poses enormous risk is reckless mining. Even the greenest of the green will concede that mining makes our lives better. From the copper used in pipes to the rare earths inside batteries, a lot of good comes from mining, but a lot of bad does too. In the United States, there's strict oversight, but in developing nations, that's not always the case. And the need for employment often trumps everything, including the damage done by extracting minerals quickly and at a low cost. Reckless mining threatens wildlife, pollutes water, and changes the soil. The problem becomes evident during a storm.
With all the rain, there's also mudslides. So if you live in a valley or you live on a steep mountainside, the rain and the mud can slide down.
It's a vexing issue because the demand for metal is expected to rise significantly in years to come. The Geological Society of London says cell phones alone are bound to drive demand. In fact, the demand for industrial metals is expected to jump 50% by the end of this decade, as more people in Brazil, Russia, India, and China, the so-called BRIC nations, buy cell phones, as well as other devices that have become necessities of middle-class life. And that brings us to our next challenge. Urban sprawl. First, the good news. Massive amounts of people in the developing world are emerging from poverty and joining the middle class. Now, the bad news. The trend involves building more homes, new offices, larger factories, and wider roads. Seton Hall exchange student Luann Machado hails from Brazil, and she's keenly aware of the problem.
I think in Brazil, we see more the value of the nature, but the problem in Brazil, I can give you an example. You cannot see trees anymore, you cannot see rivers. I think people just needed to look around and look for the beauty of the nature.
Of course, urban sprawl isn't isolated to Brazil. The issue confronts nations around the world, leading to traffic congestion and, as a result, air pollution, something we talked about earlier. But it also reduces wetlands and threatens wildlife. And that leads to our next challenge: destroying forests. As you may have figured out by now, a lot of these topics are intertwined.
Oh, indeed they are. Environmental issues are connected all down the line.
I'm always surprised at how little they understand what I would consider the interdependencies. And so what I try to emphasize in the courses that I teach are to understand and appreciate some of these interdependencies.
And in this example, urban sprawl is presenting a serious threat to our forests. According to some estimates, urban sprawl has led to 100 trees being torn down every minute. Fewer trees lead to larger amounts of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. Trees play a crucial role in absorbing the gases in the fight against global warming. These changes will have a vast effect on our way of life in the near and distant future.
If people don't realize how important the environment is, then it stands no chance.
The situation is serious, but not hopeless. How do we fix these problems? As we said earlier, the pros at Seton Hall have some ideas. But first, the final two of our 10 top issues facing the environment. One of them you probably didn't even realize was a problem. Welcome back to Flashpoint Earth, a look at the 10 top issues facing the environment as compiled by Seton Hall University. Now on to sustainability. It's a catchword that you hear all the time, but what does sustainability mean? According to the EPA, sustainability is development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. You hear so much about sustainability, you'd think everyone is going green, but that's not the case. According to National Geographic, people in Germany, Spain, Sweden, France, and South Korea are all doing less today than they were just 3 years ago. And that negative trend has Seton Hall student Victoria DeBold worried.
One of my biggest concerns with global warming is what does it leave us for the future and for our children.
Her concerns may be well-founded. A 2009 poll from Pew Research ranked the top concerns among American voters. The environment came in at number 6. Not at the bottom of the list, but not at the top either. And that leads to our last challenge. Education. Of all the issues, this is the one that you probably didn't realize was even a problem.
I knew it was a problem, I just didn't realize how big of a problem it was.
And she isn't alone. According to a study from the Earth Institute at Columbia University, a quiz given to people on what steps make the biggest difference in cutting energy use found loads of confusion. For example, participants greatly overrated low-impact moves like flipping off light switches and unplugging phone chargers. And they underrated potential high-impact changes like weatherizing homes, buying high-performance appliances, driving higher-mileage vehicles, and switching from centralized AC to room air conditioners.
Education now is what we most needed.
I think until something big happens, then that's when more people will realize.
Fortunately, Dr. Marion Glenn and Drs. Judith Stark do realize. They're all too well aware. And they're working with Seton Hall students to develop solutions. Christina Davison is among the students taking a hard look at what to do and how to do it. She says people need a wake-up call, a big one.
Nothing will happen until the Pearl Harbor attack occurs.
Yes, she said Pearl Harbor attack. Just as the U.S. was reluctant to join the war effort in 1941 prior to Pearl Harbor, Christina believes the public will be reluctant to join this fight until something big and unexpected hits.
So basically, right now we're at that point before the attack on Pearl Harbor. And if this attack were to happen, hypothetically, then Americans would be more conscious and create some changes themselves to their lifestyles to help save the Earth. But with that, it's basically nothing will happen until the Pearl Harbor attack occurs.
What would be the environmental equivalent of Pearl Harbor?
If this turning point were to happen, say gas prices rise to $10 a gallon, then that would really be a wake-up call.
Fortunately, Vanessa Rivoli Vasquez doesn't think the situation is quite so dire. She's working to effect change slowly with programs such as community-supported agriculture.
What it is the consumers would go to a farm and they would make up like a sort of membership with the farmer, and they pay a certain amount of money to the farmer, and every week the farmer would make up a box of food to give to the consumer, and they would do that for the whole season, and it just really supports keeping cash flow within the city and building a relationship with your farmer and where your food comes from.
Nicole Changaris is focused on the issue of sustainability. She thinks the world can take their cue from the New Jersey-based program Sustainable Jersey, a certification program for municipalities in the Garden State that want to go green, save money, and take steps to sustain their quality of life over the long term.
I think Sustainable Jersey is helping us to get your points and to get certified. You are required to do things with the environment.
Hailing from Brazil, Luann Machado is focused on the benefits of recycling.
It's important just for you understand what you are wasting, and then you can see how you produce, how you waste.
Victoria DeBold concedes these are big challenges. Ironically, she says the solution is all about little changes.
One person can look at their daily routine and see what means of energy they're using, if they're wasting any energy, or if they're using their car for transportation, maybe use an alternative form of transportation like maybe walking or riding their bike. And then slowly but surely, one good deed will pass on to another.
Jessica Gueron believes education should start early, while children are impressionable.
Teach children how important the environment is, and it's really important to teach them at a young age that, you know, this is the world they live in and they're responsible for what happens to it in the future.
How should parents bridge the topic? Jessica says there are already books available that can get the conversation rolling at a young age. One of those books is Mammals Who Morph: The Universe Tells Our Evolution Story.
It's just saying, like, you know, now humans are the people who are in control of the earth. It's basically in your hands. You know, this is what the world gave you, and now it's your job to take care of it.
All these students are very committed to their causes, and their efforts are making a difference. And it's their great hope that their passion for the environment will inspire everyone to make changes. Coming up, one more change you can make to save the environment. This one is easy and for anyone who drinks water. We're almost out of time, but before we go, we want to leave you with one more way you can change the environment. If you drink bottled water, look to see where it comes from. Water bottled closer to home has a far smaller carbon footprint than water from faraway nations that come to you on a plane. Thank you for watching Flashpoint Earth. I'm Ken Magos.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 1, 5, 4, 3, 1, cut, line.
Okay, I know.